is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome in to a bowl game preview edition of Booth Review presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be doing a bowl preview show for a second straight season. This time it's with my guy, Brandon McAnderson. B-Mac, how you doing, my friend?
I am fantastic, man. I went and watched some football practice today. You know, what I love about bowl season is football practice never ends. So football season never ends. You know, it'll, roll right into signing period, which is this week, and then travel down to the bowl game at the end of the week. So, man, it's just all kinds of fun to talk about, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, like, as this show's releasing on some platforms, Kansas, signing day is going to be going in, full steam ahead. So by the time you're listening to this, Kansas has probably had quite a day. With the signing day, by all indications, they're going to be able to hold on to what looks to be an absolutely stellar class with some really fun guys. We spent some time talking about Zeke Marshall a couple weeks ago on this show. Deshaun Warner is one of the premier players in the country. He's a top 200 type player by a lot of different places. There's all kinds of really fun players that Kansas is going to be welcoming into their program here, but good times. And I mean, even the transfer portal, they've been getting some guys, and we haven't seen any attrition from the transfer portal yet. Hopefully that, maintains itself after the bowl game. But man, B-Mac, there's a lot of real reasons for optimism with this program right now, with all the things going on at the same time.
Absolutely. I think from just to spend a little bit of time on the recruiting angle, I know we pointed out some specific players, but I think the best thing about it is they identified these guys early. And what happened is as they progressed through the recruiting period, the offers came in, the accolades came in, the stars came in, and the guys stayed committed. Mm-hmm. So, that tells you about, I think they have 3 4-stars. 2 of them have been 4-stars over the course of the season, with Warner being obviously the big-time guy who's as high as top 150 and will be playing in the All-American Bowl on national TV. So that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Naked he's top 240 in most publications. These are not the kind of players that choose Kansas. Mm-hmm. And that's not to mention, we talked about the quarterback, Zeke Marshall. He's the highest possible 3-star rating. His teammate, a defensive back, is the highest possible 3-star rating. So it's not just that they have multiple 4-stars, but they've got multiple 3-stars that are basically at the top of that range. So they're getting a lot of national respect. And when you look at their ability to develop players, that's really exciting that they've got, that usually they come in with, you talk about Buffalo transfers and this, that, and the third. And now they got some guys coming in with big expectations and a staff that can deliver those expectations.
You're looking at, like, Deshaun Warner got offers from Michigan and Ohio State, like, in the last couple months. Isaiah Marshall just won Mr. Football in the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? It's wild, man. Like, I've seen some tweets from them today indicating how excited they are for signing day. So I don't think we're going to, I think this will stay fresh. These guys will sign. I don't think, by all indications, they're going to hold hold this group together. And it's so impressive, for a lot of reasons. There's so many impressive things. KU builds that pipeline, in Arizona quickly. And I think they've got 3 guys coming from the same high school with Deshaun Warner, Andre Gibson, Jonathan Kamara, all coming over, all 3 defensive players from the state runner-up in Arizona. But I think that's a really good point that you made, I think, about how, this group came together and committed. I'm looking at this commitment list, and it's June. It's July. Like, I'm looking at, there's not, they had the bulk of their class done by June, and all these guys that were committed in June are still committed. And what that allows you to do is you continue to maintain that relationship for sure, but you get to start building better relationships for the 2025 group. You get to start looking ahead a little bit more and start focusing a little bit more time with you've locked in a group that has stayed committed. That's so impressive. And, like, it's one of those things that just speaks to the health of this program under Lance Leipold, where you've got strong relationships being built. You've got, a well-organized process. You know what you're looking for. You know what will stick. You know that you know the kind of personality traits that are going to allow you to hold that group together, and they did. They were right. And in an era where there's so many things in the recruiting world that are crazy, to see this group intact after and holding their end of the bargain by winning 8 games and all that stuff. That's just a really impressive thing, and I think that just speaks to the health of the program and the direction it's heading.
Absolutely, man. You just love to see it. You love to see it. Harrison Utley is a Norman, Oklahoma guy who was offered by OU late in the process, stuck with his commitment. And like you mentioned, just guys that they want to get here and they want to get to work. And that speaks volumes to, and that's not to mention the class that they have in that got to all redshirt. Mm-hmm. Guys like Marcus Terry and guys like Logan Brantley and Keaton Quebeca and, Sample and, Thompson Jr. There's just a lot of players already here that we're going to get to see next year as well. So exciting times for these Jayhawks for sure.
And player development's always been a thing for Lance Leipold and his program. Like, that's another thing. It's just, I think we might have talked about this on this show. I can't remember, but like, Buffalo wasn't out recruiting the world, but they were still putting guys in the NFL. Malcolm Kuntz, is playing pretty well for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. I don't want to talk about it. Hey, congrats on shellacking the Chargers the other day, I guess. But like,
hey, that was our Super Bowl, man. We scored more than 21 points. I cracked the brew open. Celebrated a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, the Raiders got a little dub. It felt good.
10-point dogs against the Chiefs this week. I'm just,
generous.
But yeah, man. I can't wait to see what Lance Leipold is able to do, with player development, with a group of guys that are gonna be deemed better talents than what he had at Michigan. It's at Buffalo. But yeah, like that's NIL's, like, this is anybody listening, like, NIL is going to matter more and more as things go on, right? Like, contributions are going to matter to NIL to help keep this team together. It does seem like they've definitely focused on keeping and retaining guys rather than going out in the portal and trying to make flashy, fits, which I think is a really smart strategy. You're developing players, you're investing in players. Do what you can to keep them, do what you can to keep them, because you already know they're good culture fits. You already know that they're going to step in seamlessly to what you want to accomplish, and that reduces the hit. That reduces the, if you're bringing guys from outside, you're running the risk of a guy maybe not panning out this entirely the same way that you were anticipating it to. So I do love the homegrown philosophy and taking care of business and taking care of your guys internally. So this is the encouragement. If you want to continue to see these incredible players stick around, I think NIL is going to matter more and more as we go.
Yeah, and NIL and the transfer portal, these things are changing every day. With Legends of Kansas, we're directly involved now, and we don't know anything more than when we started because the information constantly changes. But what I'm optimistic about is when you look at the full picture of what's going to be out there, what's going to be available, and you follow the media cycle, your coach can be one of two things. He can be a guy that has the money behind him and goes out and gets it done, or he can be the guy that complains about losing his depth and not being able to pay the right players, or you could be Lance Leipold, who already has a sound strategy to address an ever-changing market. Look at the type of players he targets. Look at the people that they offer. They're looking for people to come in and contribute. They're not looking at recruiting stars. They're not looking at so-and-so was a 5-star out of high school. They're looking at a skill set that they can develop, that's a culture fit, that can come in and play. So what they're doing is they're building depth through the transfer portal, because if 1,000 people are entering the transfer portal, there's going to be players in there. There's going to be guys that are looking for opportunities that don't have a lot to do with money. And that's how you end up with guys like Austin Booker, a guy that played 23 snaps in Minnesota. You end up with a guy like J.B. Brown, who was a sub linebacker type of player. You end up with a guy like Gage Keys, who just didn't play. So you have these guys that are unproven. They come, they develop, and then some of them move on. And you got to keep it moving. You got to keep developing players and, develop your younger players. Having the luxury to redshirt some of your young players is a benefit that they have. So I think they're prepared for it in every way possible. That doesn't mean that they don't need support, but it does mean that they have a plan.
Oh, for sure. And like, I'm not diminishing the portal stuff either, because like, they're incredible at the portal. I'm just saying, they're never going to be the team going out to buy a team in the portal, like you were talking about. And they're again, like their player evaluation is unbelievable. I mean, one of my favorite like anecdotes is KU was the first team to offer Jared Verse, who just opted out of a bowl game at Florida State because he's going to go in the first round this year. Mm-hmm. They were the first team on him, and their eye for talent's exceptional. They know the right guys to be in on very quickly, and that's just been an impressive thing. But it's not always necessarily, it's just identifying guys that need an opportunity. So if they have to go portaling because they lose some guys, I have full confidence they'll be able to, but they're not having to go out and buy a team, the way that some of these other programs are. And Lance Leipold can continue to do more with less with this program because that's what he's, capable of doing. But hey, we're continuing to raise the profile of this program.
Yes.
Whatever we can do contribution-wise.
Rich people problems. Come on, man. Break it. We had those poverty problems for quite a while. We got the rich people problems, man.
Look what Lance Leipold's done with what he's had to this point. Yep. Like, he just continues to get better and better and better and better. So keep investing in this program. You can also keep investing in home field apparel if you'd like. Promo code NOSEAS23 will get you a discount on the incredible selection of Kansas gear available to you there. All kinds of great sweatshirts, t-shirts. I'm rocking a Kansas sweatshirt right now. They've got all kinds of phenomenal stuff, football, basketball, you name it. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. NOSEAS23 is your promo code to get your home field apparel. We're going to take a break. We'll be back to preview KU UNLV Guaranteed Rate Bowl right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Thanks, everybody hanging out. Please feel free to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, getting you ready now for KU UNLV here. Less than a week out now, BMAC, and it's going to be a fun game. I'm really excited about this one. You're getting Barry Odom, former Mizzou coach there. You're also getting Brendan Marion, one of the brightest minds in college football right now. UNLV we can start with this. UNLV has a very unique offense. And it's not that it's just completely world-changing and it's just an entirely new, out of thin air scheme, because there's definitely a lot of different principles. But there's an offense that Brendan Marion designed called the Go-Go offense. Have you kind of done a little research on it to this point? You know a little bit about it. BMAC, what have you seen out of the Go-Go offense so far?
Yeah, so I read about him a few years ago. Before he started to get a shot, he was at HBCU.
Mm-hmm. Howard.
Things effectively. He's at Howard. I think he had Cam Newton's brother out there. They had a big upset. I can't remember who it was that they beat.
It was UNLV.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
So, there you go. I think the thing that I liked most about what he did just in that Boise game was I liked the additional lineman groups. Mm-hmm. They had a couple 7 offensive lineman plays. I like the way they deployed it. Just putting bigger, heavier players on the edge in your quarterback run game. It's a smart way to do it for a team like UNLV that has to be more resourceful. Mm-hmm. You might be losing something in a pass catcher or losing some athleticism that a Power 5 team could get the same effect with a tight end, a Mason Fairchild type. Mm-hmm. They can't. So they just put more linemen out there. I like that. I like that concept. I like that they push the ball down the field. I like that they have a young quarterback that's got some skills, and he's able to handle all the different looks. So they do some things that I like, and I think it's going to be a challenge. And, you look at the team at the end of the year, that's not the team that Kansas is going to be facing because they've had a month off.
Yeah.
They're just going to be fresher. They're not going to be as beat up as they were in that BYU game. They'll be better up front. I think it'll be a fun game.
It's gonna be a fun challenge, and I think for KU fans, and I think there's probably some stuff you can read up on the Go-Go offense, but you're gonna when you kind of watch this game, you're gonna see them do some of the kind of crazy stuff that you've seen Kansas do. You're gonna see 5 into the boundary. You're gonna see a lot of time. You're gonna see 2 running backs lined up to one side of the quarterback. You're gonna see. You're going to see overbalanced formations. You're going to see or unbalanced formations. You're going to see all kinds of different things. And it's all done out of tempo. They love to play tempo. So you're going to get these unique formations, these unique looks, and they're going to try to play fast. And it's a two-back system. You're going to see a lot of different run concepts and a lot of creative ways to get into some of those base principles. Like I said, you've got the quarterback lined up. You've got two guys lined up right next to each other. They might hand off to one and one's lead block, and they might, run some misdirection with the backs. It's a lot of different misdirection, a lot of different formational challenges that this group's going to present. And then, like B-Mac said, they're going to challenge down the field too. They're going to go throw the football, down the field. They're going to try to push the ball down the field, mixing in this tempo, mixing in, this formational stuff. It is one of those offenses that, former offensive coordinator Andy Koldnicki talked about being one of the most difficult teams to prepare for. This is a unique, different offense to prepare for. Luckily for Kansas, they do have a month off to try to, kind of sort some of these things out. Because ultimately, there are a lot of, very simple core principles the same way Kansas does, but just with a lot of different ways to get into them out of a two-back set.
Absolutely. And if they do have a lot of success, early in the game, or if Kansas comes out with a similar defensive strategy that we've seen, the bend but don't break shell type defense, we've also seen Kansas be able to play different ways on defense, which is, I think, something unique to this year, to where they haven't been a team that's multiple on defense, but they are this year. And I think you've seen them decide at times to lean on those defensive backs and let them do the work. And one of the things I noticed early in that Cincinnati game was we weren't matching numbers. We weren't going 4-on-3. We were going 3-on-3 and inviting them to run the football into bigger boxes. I think you'll see some of that too, and just trust these DBs. That's the luxury of having, 3-year starters that are 6'1", 185, 200 pounds that can run and tackle. And they've got multiple versions of that player. So, I think it's a fun matchup, and it's what you want to see in a bowl game. I think from a Kansas perspective, you did want to see them go up against another Power 5 team and prove themselves again. But if you can't get that matchup, this is about as good as it gets. You get a fun, entertaining team that's going to play a unique style. And the funny part is when you were describing them, that could have been one of those games of where is he talking about Kansas or is he talking about UNLV?
Yep, absolutely.
Multiples, they're pushing the ball down the field, the motions, all these different things. So there's some similarities there that this Kansas defense sees every week, every day in practice. So that'll help them. And then there's just going to be from a viewer's perspective, just some fun little bits of candy out there to enjoy.
Yeah, there's the biggest stylistic change between that's oversimplification, but Kansas tends to be a slower paced team. They're going to challenge you formationally, shifts and motions, and they're going to have some unique looks that they're going to get into the same way that UNLV will. Kansas's offensive pace is going to be slow. But tempo is a thing that UNLV likes to employ. And that's going to be something that I think is going to be one of the biggest challenges for this team is, handling all this, exotic concepts, looks that they haven't had a lot of familiarity with while playing a team that likes to play tempo. And, we've seen this team struggle at times with some tempo at times, and like they've kind of been up and down, right? Because, the benefit of tempo can be you can wear a team down, or it's a risk you run, because if tempo doesn't work, you're off the field quickly and your offense is back on the field. And this is the kind of offense that Kansas has that can grind you to a pulp and wear your defense out too. So there's it's going to be a big challenge, and like it always starts with early down success for me. That's one of the big things I think with any tempo team, having early down success and keeping a team behind the sticks. And, that's, I think, one of the biggest, starting points when you're looking at how do you play a tempo team. Your early downs have to be really sound, and you've got to be pretty good about stopping the run when you're playing this UNLV team.
Yeah, and Kansas from just a schematic perspective have been pretty good about being where they're supposed to be. Usually the struggle is more about tackling. That's when they've struggled to tackle, and I think that's had to do with worn down bodies. So I expect them to be fresh. I expect them to be dialed in and showing up where they're supposed to show up. And, UNLV will have good skill players on the outside. They'll have good backs. They have a good quarterback. They have a good offensive line, especially for a Group 5 team. So there's going to be some just natural challenges within the game that are outside of schematics that they're going to have to handle as well. I'm just excited to see it.
Mm-hmm. You talked about their quarterback, Jaden Maiava, had his redshirt freshman having a very good year. He's a mobile guy. I think he's a guy that, he can move a little bit. He's willing to throw the ball down the field. This is be an opportunity for, you talk about the corners. This is a great time to have the Mello Dotsons and the Kobe Bryants of the world challenging challenging guys on the outside. Because, we saw what happened when Cincinnati tried to challenge Kobe Bryant, last time that this team played. And that'll be a point of emphasis, I think, for the defensive backs, is just handling the vertical passing game, because this is a lot of two-back power, and then let's throw some shot plays down the field. So Mello Dotson and Kobe Bryant I like KU's chances of slowing down the vertical passing game if they're going to be trying to challenge those guys.
Absolutely. And it's not just their strength that they get to play to, but extra offensive linemen, two backs. Kenny's going to be in the box. So if Kenny is playing forward, Kenny is a very effective safety, one of the better ones in the Big 12 in terms of just point of attack defense. So it's a game plan that plays into his strengths as well.
I saw Kenny's getting to go to the Shrine Bowl. I'll be down at the Shrine Bowl this year. I go every year. So I am looking forward to going and seeing Kenny Logan get in there, representing Kansas. Earl Bostic was there last year. We got to keep that Kansas pipeline going.
I'm a Shrine Bowl alum myself.
Are you really?
Yes, I played in the Shrine Bowl in Houston.
Man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
Come on now. I go every year.
Yeah, Jeff Schwartz was down there. I think the only guy left playing is the quarterback for the Ravens, Josh
Johnson?
Yeah, Josh Johnson from San Diego. He was there. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Vikings. He was our starting quarterback. So there's some dudes out there.
You're old, bro.
No question. I'm talking about the head coach. Oh yeah, I know that guy.
I think Jaden Maiava can be had with pressure. Like, that's one thing I think, I don't think he's handled, pressure well. So if you are able to get into his face and you're able to challenge him, I think that'll spell good things for Kansas. And, look, player for player, KU's got more talent. And I think talent's going to have to win just going to have to win out in some of these areas we talked about. Austin Booker is going to have a good game. That defensive line's got to set the tone, I think, from the start. And the good news is I think this defensive line will, because they've got a lot of talent up front. And, I think that's how things can really, that can be an ultimate great equalizer for this team, I think, in this kind of situation when the scheme's going to be a big challenge. And how in style play and tempo is going to be a big talent challenge, but depth on the defensive line is not going to hurt at all.
Not even a little bit. They got plenty of guys that can play. Like we talk about, a lot of the KU football nerds get excited when a new guy just gets another opportunity. So if a guy gets to play more, who's arguing with Caleb Taylor getting more snaps?
Right.
Yeah. So they've got guys that are ready for those snaps. Whatever's available, they got guys that we like pretty much at every position.
Yep. They've shown their depth, and if the tempo gets going a little bit, I like KU's depth to be able to handle it. NFL fans, it's time to unwrap nonstop football action this holiday season. Throw down on big matchups with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on the NFL and score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now with code KCSN. New customers can bet $5 on NFL action to score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Okay, offense time. Mm-hmm. There's so much reason to be excited about this offense. I'm excited to get one more look at Jason Bean, one kind of final send-off for Jason Bean. I'm excited, to see the fingerprints of Jim Zebrowski on this offense too. I think that's like and Zebrowski is, I think, the thing that I'm really most looking forward to is not that things are going to change drastically, but are there any little wrinkles that this staff introduces? Like Andy Kolnicki's been gone for a couple weeks, so there's a lot of game prep to be done by this staff. So I think you're gonna get a decent little look at what a Jim Zebrowski offense and game planning and all that could really look like, because you've had a large sample size of them getting to prepare for this game.
Yeah, and it is a full playbook. So they've got a lot of things at their disposal, and they built this offense in a way where there are no true decoys. Everybody's live all the time. So you figure there are different types of counters and usages of guys that we haven't seen yet. So I'm hoping to see some of that. And then when you talk about the matchup against this defense, I think during the Boise State broadcast, they had mentioned that 20% of the plays against UNLV are deep shots. That's 1 in every 5. That's a high number. Yeah. So that is, and Boise State ended up bombing them about 3 or 4 times. So what you're going to see is what you saw similar to Boise is they're going to pound you with the running game, and then they're going to test your eye discipline as a result. And I think that, when you see a team get deep shots taken on them like that, it's about their lack of eye discipline. It's about their safeties want to be active in the run game. It's about them needing their safeties to be active in the run game just because they need the extra bodies. So that kind of is the type of thing that leaves you susceptible to deep balls. And Group 5 corners and safeties are just smaller than Big 12 corners and safeties. And you don't even have to take it from all the way down to the Group 5. Look at the Power 5 teams that just moved into the conference. UCF, smaller safeties and corners. Houston, smaller safeties and corners. Cincinnati, smaller safeties and corners. So what happens is those guys have a tougher time tackling 220-pound backs, 215-pound backs. So that's why they're up there anyway. So it's just it's kind of a physical disadvantage that they're going to have to scheme around, and they don't have a lot of options to scheme around it. So it's going to be they're going to have a handful on this Kansas offense for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And like you look at some of the examples of some teams, Kansas really got after Cincinnati with the vertical passing game, and it was complemented by some early down run success. They've let that thing air out with, games like Oklahoma State. I think it all starts with that run game, though, for sure. Like if you can get that run game going and really force the hand of UNLV, that's going to be problematic. That's going to be really problematic, putting them in just kind of some conflict there, putting them in some difficult spots. Devin Neal, I hope this isn't the last time I see Devin Neal in a Jayhawk jersey, but I'm just really excited to watch him again. He's had such a phenomenal season. He's averaging 6.6 yards per carry.
Man.
Absolutely. He's so good, man. And so, we don't know, there's obviously a big decision for him, coming up here, but I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to seeing, what kind of look he gets. And, not to say that, his usage will tell us anything, right? But it'll be in the back of my mind a little bit, at least,
Yeah, he'll be a guy that, his skill set is just fun. If this is his last game in a Jayhawk uniform, I'm going to soak it in. I like his style of play. I like the way that he's evolved as a player, making people miss and then being able to get to top end speed and still finish runs. He's just been an exciting player, and I'm excited to see him do it at least one more time. Hopefully there's more for him down the road, but this offensive line is, when you're facing a team like this, when you're overmatched a little bit, you're going to have to use movement. You're going to have to use slanting. You're going to have to use speed in your front seven. And, Nevada was a weird game, but that worked for them. Similar size guys across the front four, just movement and trying to outwork Kansas. And that's going to be the angle that UNLV tries to take. But just to put that into context, that's also the angle that UCF tried to take. Mm-hmm. Didn't work. They gave up almost 400 yards over 400 yards rushing. And that was just a product of, we can't stand up and fight these guys, so we're going to move around. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're going to see from UNLV. You're going to see a lot of movement, a lot of slanting, and, try to use some of the speed and quickness advantages, if there are any. But that's usually where you try to disrupt run teams, is to try to be active. The problem with that is that you're really playing with fire with, these zone type run schemes, option type run schemes, because option can just zone it all up. And you can do all the movement you want to do, and we can just zone it all up and play 2-on-2. So there's a lot of options that KU has, and there's not a lot of options UNLV has to try to slow it down.
You know, I've seen UNLV in some odd fronts, some even fronts. I'm be kind of curious to see, you know, what their choices are there, if they're going to try to mix some things up and just kind of throw some things around. You know, like I feel like KU has historically had more trouble with some of these odd fronts, you know, and some of the Iowa State type defenses that we've seen. And you can watch them a little bit at times and see some similarities to some of the Iowa State stuff at times, where, you know, you're getting a lot of, you know, downfield players trying to spill everything to the edge, and it kind of string and runs out. So I'll just be, you know, I'll be kind of curious what kind of choices that, you know, that UNLV makes with their defensive fronts. BMAC, who's one player that we haven't talked about that you're just really excited to watch in a bowl game this week?
I'm going to say Quentin Skinner. You know, I think that when I hear 1 in 5 balls as a deep ball, he's the first guy I think of. You know, because he's a guy that is open when he's not open, just because of his length and his size and his top end speed. And he's a guy that if you keep him on the move, he's dangerous, you know, whether it be those deep overs, you know, or like just a straight go route with a back shoulder throw. I want to see some of that. You know, Bean and him had really good deep ball chemistry last year, and they developed a little bit of against Cincinnati as well. Trevor Wilson's a guy that'll be back to full strength, and he's a guy that Bean likes a lot. You know, especially running the posts and change direction from that slot receiver position when Kansas wants to, when they want to pull those corners down and match up those nickels and safeties on some speed guys. I mean, you've seen Trevor Wilson burn Texas and Oklahoma State, a lot of teams. So I'd like to see some of that. And a guy I'm a little bit interested in too is Doug Emelian. You know, if they're going to be able to throw the ball more, I just think he's a guy that can do more than they've asked him to do, you know, just because it's such a deep position. So I'll be interested to see him and just what that receiver group does, because you hear deep ball and you hear we've got some good options, and I'm excited to see Bean pick out his favorites.
Yeah, Trevor Wilson, I love that one. I think that's a great pull. And like, I think we've talked about this before, but like building chemistry with guys that are typically in your group when you're a 1 or a 2, and Jason Bean was a 2 for the first half of the year, and developing a lot of chemistry with Trevor Wilson, who's been a 2 for the last couple of years as well. That matters. You know, you just have that. Maybe he's not, you know, been the most consistent talent, you know, relative because he wasn't starting. But if he was building chemistry with Jason Bean with the 2s, it's gonna matter. Like, yeah. And I mean, both of them are first team capable players, as we've learned. Right. It'll be fun to watch. I'm just gonna continue to say Torrey Loughlin. Yeah. I love it, man, and like I love the versatility of that chess piece that they have, and they find different ways to utilize them, and teams don't always appropriately account for him. You know, you're going to treat him as a running back. Okay, cool. He's going to moss somebody in the corner of the end zone. You can, you know, run the, you know, direct snap triple stuff. Like, they use him so many different ways. He's just such a versatile chess piece. He's not like the guy that's going to put together just insane stats. He's a more of a glue guy that, you know, presents problems to a defense in a variety of different ways. And if you're not going to account for him appropriately, or if you account for him one way, they'll figure out a way to utilize him differently. So I think, you know, I would just be fascinated to see what Coach Z has cooking up for him and how they utilize him in this game. It's just little context clues to kind of just see. Obviously, you know, we don't anticipate a ton of big changes for this team, but just, you know, maybe there's a few here or there with what this program's got. So I love watching Torrey Loughlin. I'm always fascinated to see how they use Torrey Loughlin, and so that's kind of a guy I'm really looking forward to watching.
Yeah, Torrey is he's been one of my favorite players to cover, and you know, he has a little bit of break in case of emergency kind of vibes to him, because this season when Bean was unavailable, that's where you saw his reemergence in the game plan. I know there's a lot of people led by me with a torch and a pitchfork saying, please keep him in the game plan every week. Just because it's fun, you know, it works. It's productive anytime he's out there. And, you know, I know they have an embarrassment of riches, but he just is a unique player, and he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, I love watching him play. All right, B-Mac, let's predict this game before we get out of here. So what do you got for this bowl game?
I'm going to say 48 to 21. I think that one of the things that I noticed in the Cincinnati game which, Cincinnati didn't give you all the complexity because they're not a big RPO team. So it didn't, they couldn't convince Brian Borland to play him honest outside. I think UNLV will be more effective at that. But the difference is that Kansas is a team that's just a good third and 7+ team. They just have become a good 3rd and 7+ defense. And if they're getting a bunch of 3rd and 7+ on defense, they're going to get you off the field a lot. Mm-hmm. And if they get the ball, they're going to possess it a long time because they're good at ball possession. That's one of the things that they're good at. So I see it being a game that's tight early, that Kansas kind of drifts away once some of those, like you mentioned, once some of those early down successes start to get removed from the game. I think that's when Kansas takes control. But I do expect it to be close and fun early and often in the first half of the game.
Early down success can kill tempo. Early down success can take away some of that complexity too. And so, if it becomes more of a true drop back game, which I think Kansas has the ability to make it more of a true drop back game for UNLV because of the situation, both scoreboard and, down in distance, I think KU's going to have a lot of success. I think offensively they're going to have a great game. I have a ton of confidence that they're going to be able to put together a great game. And yeah, I think they're going to light the scoreboard up. So I'm going to go 42-21. I think Kansas is covering a very big spread. I think they're winning by a lot, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this game. I can't wait to see this. I don't think this team's sneaking up on anybody. I know they're not a Power 5 program, but I don't think Lance Leipold's going to let this program slide or slip or waste this month on a bad performance here in less than a week in Arizona. So give me the Hawks winning 42-21. That is it for this episode of Booth Review. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, subscribing, supporting. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
Peace.